everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zheng. You must have heard a lot of Axis powers, axis of evil, which was first used by US President George W. Bush after the 9/11 attacks. But do you know that recently a new Axis Act was passed by the US Congress? What is this act and what kind of changes might it bring to us? So today I'd like to talk about this before I give you some quick updates on the COVID situation in Shanghai and China. First, a Shen Yun video.
You are not just watching a performance. You are witnessing a culture reborn. Now, you'll see what the modern world has never seen. China, before communism. Shen Yun 2022. Live on stage. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
China before communism. Make sure you go watch it if you haven't and buy tickets from shenyun.show/Jennifer-Zheng to get a discount. Now, let's move to our topics today. According to Financial Times, recently, the Chinese regulators held an emergency meeting with domestic and foreign banks to discuss how they could protect China's overseas assets from US-led sanctions similar to those imposed on Russia after its invasion of Ukraine. The report said the internal conference was held on April 22nd and included officials from China's central bank and the finance ministry and executives from local and international banks. The report said that Xi Jinping was very much aware of America and its allies' ability to freeze Russia's assets and felt that China must be alert to this. Senior Chinese regulators and agencies, including current and former chairman of the CCP Security Regulatory Commission Yi Huiman and Xiao Gang, all asked banks at the meeting what steps could be taken to protect CCP's overseas assets, particularly its 30.2 trillion in foreign exchange reserves. The CCP also holds a large number of other assets, ranging from more than 1 trillion in US bonds to office buildings in New York, such as Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, owned by the CCP. It was reported that nobody at the meeting could figure out a good solution for the CCP. Participants said bluntly that the CCP's banking system is not prepared to deal with US measures to freeze its dollar assets or to exclude it from the SWIFT system. So the question here is, why would the CCP worry so much about being sanctioned? There are only two possibilities. One, the CCP is preparing to invade Taiwan. Two, the CCP has offered Russia or plans to offer Russia substantial support, so it thinks that it could be sanctioned. Although many Chinese people believe that the CCP won't ever dare to invade Taiwan, but many other Chinese people or other people believe the threat is real, including Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan or the Republic of China. He said during a recent interview with CNN that over the past year, in addition to sending nearly 1,000 military jets to harass Taiwan, the CCP also had conducted cognitive operations against Taiwan using our democracy and freedom of speech to spread misinformation in an attempt to divide Taiwanese society, confuse national perceptions, and force our country into submission with information cognitive and cyber warfare, and other non-traditional security threats. Well, while seeing all these insane things happening in Shanghai and other cities in China now, I don't think we can use normal human thinking and logic to understand Xi Jinping and the CCP. So it is always good to be well prepared for the CCP's possible madness. Recently, on April 27th, a very important act was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives. This act is called the Assessing Xi's Interference and Subversion Act, or AXIS Act for short. This bipartisan legislation requires the U.S. State Department to submit ongoing reports to Congress on the CCP's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Let's watch a short clip about how Congressman Barr, who introduced this act, spoke about this in the U.S. House.
Mr. Speaker, as the United States and our NATO allies and other allies respond to Vladimir Putin's unprovoked and brutal attack on the free, sovereign, and independent nation of Ukraine, we must assess the many ways in which Russia is seeking to evade sanctions. And that includes the extent to which Russia is turning to China to enable its aggression. Mr. Speaker, the unholy alliance between the Chinese Communist Party and the authoritarian oligarchs running the Kremlin is a serious threat to the United States and our allies, and it's enabling this illegal aggression against Ukraine. Instead of condemning Putin's war crimes, the CCP is rewarding them. On February 28th, after the invasion, the CCP struck a massive deal with the Russian energy company Gazprom. Gazprom will deliver 50 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year to the CCP under the agreement. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the United States to confront this new axis of evil head on.
Well, the act requires the U.S. State Department to submit an initial report within 30 days of the bill's enactment and every 90 days thereafter. I think this act is very important. It is the first time that a CCP leader's name was included in the title of a U.S. act. This will no doubt give the CCP great pressure and make it think more carefully regarding whether it will still want to support Russia or not. A lot of CCP high-ranking officials have a huge amount of assets in the US and other Western countries. So if the US started to seriously investigate and punish the CCP will definitely care. And Xi Jinping's political enemies may hate him more because of it, as he could put the assets of other CCP officials at risk. So more CCP officials might want to overthrow him. According to the CCP's own figures, as of the end of 2021, China's banking sector recorded external financial assets of US dollars of 1,531 billion and external liabilities of 1,568.9 billion US dollars, and net external liabilities of 37.9 billion US dollars. So this is to say that China's banking sector has more debts than assets. Recently, there are rumors that the CCP will no longer allow citizens to exchange foreign currency or do investment immigration. Some cities have stopped doing notarization of documents for citizens who want to do investment immigration. From this, we can understand why the CCP is so worried that it would be sanctioned by the US. It is also very interesting that the abbreviation of the name of this act is AXIS. I don't know whether it is a coincidence or a deliberate choice by Congressman Barr, who introduced this bill. Whatever the case, the name Axis can easily make people remember the term Axis that was used as a connective term during World War II to identify Germany and its key allies, Japan and Italy. So this probably is a deliberate choice, and the new Axis this time is Russia and the CCP. Apart from the overwhelming pro-Russia propaganda in China, especially in the early stage of the Russia-Ukraine war, there are two recent incidents that can show us that the CCP was helping Russia. As I said earlier, the Axis Act was passed by the US Congress on April 27th, and just one day before that, on April 26th, Chinese drone company DJI announced that it had temporarily suspended business activities in Russia and Ukraine to ensure its products are not used during the war. Why did DJI suddenly make such a statement? I believe it is because it already knew that the Axis Act would be passed soon, and it was scared by it. Ukraine officials and the public have condemned DJI and said it had leaked data on Ukraine's military positions to Russia, for Russia to use it to attack Ukraine. Ukrainian officials said some of DJI's aeroscope systems that were sold to Ukraine failed to activate at the start of the war. Some Ukrainians accused DJI of tampering with these systems to keep Russian drones out of sight to support Russia. In the meantime, Russia had successfully used the same Aero Mirror system to target Ukrainian drones and pilots. So it was obviously that DJI was deliberately helping Russia. So this is one incident. Another incident is China's telecommunication giant Huawei's support. I'm not sure whether you've learned this piece of news or not. That is, on April 1st, Huawei announced that Huawei's CFO Meng Wanzhou would now act as vice chairman and rotating chairman too. This is the first time since Huawei implemented the rotating chairman system in 2018 that the rotating chairman has changed outside the normal handover time. This means that she is only one step away from succeeding her father Ren Zhengfei, the founder of Huawei. Ren Zhengfei had said before that Meng Wanzhou was unlikely to become his successor because she doesn't have a technology background, and it was also said that Ren Zhengfei's son Ren Wei also wanted to become the successor. So why Meng Wanzhou was chosen as the successor in the end? According to the CCP's propaganda machine Phoenix News, the reason why Meng Wanzhou won the race was that she had become the new spiritual leader of Huawei after she suffered and experienced the detention incident. The Phoenix News didn't explain what the detention incident was, but here in the US, we all know that she was arrested in Canada back in 2018 at the request of the US government. The US accused her of violating US sanctions against Iran. In September 21st, in September 21, she was released after she reached a deal with the U.S. Department of Justice. So we can say that she was detained in her house in Canada for about 3 years as a prisoner of the U.S. So because of this, she became a national hero of the CCP's China and the new spiritual leader of Huawei. I present this fact here to give you an idea about Huawei's position on the US. If Meng Wanzhou is a criminal in the eyes of the US, she is a hero for the CCP and Huawei. Well, according to the CCP's own media, in February this year, after Russia had already invaded Ukraine, when Russia experienced cyber attacks, Huawei immediately rushed to help Russia maintain its network and build a mobile broadband system. And this report on one of China's biggest web portals proudly announced on March 14th that Huawei had become the only 5G suppliers in Russia, as both Ericsson and Nokia withdrew from Russia because of the Russia-Ukraine war. And this report also proudly claims that after Ericsson and Nokia abandoned Russia, Huawei had sent Russia the most needed coal in the coldest weather. In other words, Huawei saved Russia in this sense. And this report that was published only yesterday on another big web portal in China happily says that Russia is so supportive of us. Putin has so far praised Huawei openly 4 times and provided practical support for Huawei 3 times. The report says after Huawei was sanctioned by the US, Putin has openly spoken out for Huawei 4 times within 1 month. The report says Putin doesn't just pay lip service to Huawei. Instead, the day after Huawei was blocked by the United States, Russia's largest telecommunications company immediately announced that it had signed a commercial 5G contract with Huawei, clearly stating that Huawei equipment does not have any security risks, and telling the outside world in a high-profile manner that Russia is changing all its telecommunication equipment in Moscow to Huawei's products. The report says both the timing of the announcement and the move to put Huawei equipment in Russia's capital show Russia's firm support for Huawei, and Russia also signed a series of agreements to expand cooperation with Huawei at a Russian conference in Moscow at the end of the same month. The report says, regretfully, at the most difficult time for Huawei, Russia proved to the world with practical actions who is our real friend. So the above 2 incidents are just 2 examples of how the CCP is supporting Russia. These are what we can know from public information. There must be a lot of other secret deals that we don't know yet. So those need investigation. In conclusion, I believe this Axis Act is very important in terms of geopolitical landscape. Maybe the CCP initially planned to encourage and support Russia so that Russia could take some international heat for the CCP. It didn't expect that Russia would encounter such strong and effective resistance from Ukraine. So Xi Jinping miscalculated again. The world has only become more clear about the true color of the CCP. Finally, a few updates on Shanghai. After more than 1 month of being locked down, Shanghai announced on May the 1st that 6 districts have basically reached the goal of societal zero COVID. And the entire city is divided into 4 different areas, and different lockdown or reopen measures are applied to different areas. So nearly 3 million people are still under lockdown. About 5 million people are under strict management, and 15 million people are under the so-called micro reopen, which means every household can have one person go out shopping twice every week at a certain time. So twice every week, one person per family can go out, maybe for only several hours. And all sorts of tragedies continue to happen. For example, this 18-month boy died after waiting for 7 hours at the hospital. He was choked by something while eating and was rushed to the hospital, but doctors refused to see him before his COVID testing result was out, so he died. And this photo was taken in Shanghai. Last time we showed a photo of grass growing at Shanghai's Times Square. I think this photo is equally sad. I'm not sure whether these dogs are dead or not, but have you ever seen such a scene in a big city? And look at this picture. Maybe these cats are also wondering, where are all those human beings? Is the earth ours now? And this is an English teacher from South Africa. Her name is Norma Blackie. She died of hunger in her flat in Shanghai on April 18th. This is a woman who had nowhere to go and had to live in a phone box for about a month. She put all her stuff in the box, and on April 29th, she was driven out by the white guards. After that, the phone box was sealed again. When the woman left, she was barefoot and carried her puppy in her arms. Nobody knows where she has gone or what happened to her. All these photos were taken by someone who lives in the building opposite the phone box. People were so bored during the lockdown, so the woman in the phone box gave them some excitement and interest. They watched her every day and documented what happened to her. So these unbelievable things are happening in the CCP's China every day. And this photo was taken from Zhengzhou city in Henan province today. People all rushed to stock up as this city is going to lock down too. Zhengzhou is the capital city of Henan province and has a population of 12 million. The government said the lockdown would start tomorrow and last for 1 week. Do you still remember that the government in Shanghai said the lockdown would only be 4 days? Would only last 4 days when they announced it on March 27. Now it's been over a month and the lockdown is still not over yet. So you can only imagine how panicked people in Zhengzhou must be. Well, that's all for today. People, please do help me spread the inconvenient truth or go to my website at jenniferzengblog.com to sign up for a membership or make a donation. Thank you so much. See you next time.